Hello everyone, today I'll be reviewing White Heat. So White Heat came out in 1949 and is a gangster film directed by Raoul Walsh. In this film, James Cagney, he plays a gangster called Cody Jarrett, and he has a few other guys in his gang as well, and right at the start of the film we see him take part in this train robbery, and also along with him is his mum and his wife as well. Unfortunately for him, what ends up happening is that he ends up having to serve a 2-year sentence in jail. Then we're introduced to Edmond O'Brien's character, who is an undercover cop, and he gets himself into the jail, into the same cell as Cody Jarrett, wanting to find out more about him. What then later happens is things really start to spiral out of control for Cody Jarrett. Unfortunately, his mother dies and he plans an escape from the jail, but things really start to go wrong and lots of panic ensues throughout this film. So if any of you are familiar with James Cagney, then you will know that he was quite well known for playing this tough guy gangster role. He'd been in other gangster films before, like The Public Enemy and The Roaring Twenties, but in this film he's quite a bit older. In fact, he was actually 50 years old and notably slightly larger as well. However, this is definitely one of his more mature roles, and actually it was only a few weeks ago that I watched The Public Enemy for the first time, and in this film he definitely plays a more responsible character, and yeah, you can definitely tell that he's done lots of robberies in his time and is really this experienced gangster character, and I actually think that this is one of the best roles that he has ever played. We also do get an excellent supporting cast as well. So Edmond O'Brien, as I mentioned, is the undercover cop, and he's very much the secondary character in this film, because we see Edmond O'Brien's character really becomes best friends with Cody Jarrett, but then unfortunately Cody Jarrett doesn't realise that he's actually a cop. So we see their relationship throughout the film, and eventually, obviously, we know eventually Cody Jarrett is gonna find out the truth, which obviously makes the film really interesting. We also have Virginia Mayo, who plays Cody Jarrett's wife, and she's very good at playing this sexy blonde character who is really not very trustworthy at all. Yeah, quite a few times throughout this film she seems to go backwards and forwards between sides, just finding out what works best for her. And then also what is really interesting in this film is the relationship that Cody Jarrett has with his mother. So he's actually very close with his mother, and in quite a lot of scenes throughout this film Cody Jarrett gets headaches or migraines, and he ends up going completely crazy and sort of falling on the floor and rocking his head backwards and forwards, and then his mother is always there to console him, and we get this very strange scene where he ends up sitting on his mother's lap, which really just shows the very close relationship between the two of them, and that even though Cody Jarrett is supposed to be this really big tough guy, he actually does have a very weak spot. And actually one of the most memorable scenes in the film is when Cody realises, or he hears the news, that his mother has died, and he goes absolutely crazy inside this prison in this hall where everybody else is eating their food, and he runs on the table, he falls on the floor and just causes absolute chaos. That's absolutely one of the best scenes in the film. One of the other excellent scenes in this film, which I won't spoil too much because I'll be spoiling it for you, is the scene which is right at the very end with Cody Jarrett saying one of the great movie quotes, which is "Made it Ma, top of the world," because earlier on in this film his mother always used to tell him that he'll be on top of the world soon and that everything will be alright, and then right at the end we get him saying that quote in this very chaotic and very crazy scene, which is really an excellent way just to finish off the film and really just sums up what kind of a character Cody Jarrett is. So I'm going to actually say that this is one of the best gangster films of all time and one of the best crime films of all time, and it's a film that doesn't get talked about enough simply because it is such an old film, and obviously it is over 70 years old at this point. But I honestly think that apart from the first two Godfather films and also Goodfellas, this is the best crime movie of all time. It is aged incredibly well. It has an excellent story. James Cagney plays Cody Jarrett brilliantly. It's such an excellent character, and just the relationship that he has with all the other characters in the film, whether he gets along with them or whether he hates them, all just makes for a very impressive film. And also I must mention the score from Max Steiner really heats things up and really creates tension during those really dramatic moments. I also think that this film is excellently filmed as well. All the camera shots are well done, although obviously some of the camera work does look slightly dated, obviously, which is for its time. But when you compare this to lots of other films of the time, this is definitely one of the best shot films. In terms of cinematography, it is a great looking film. Obviously, it's shot in black and white, but that really sort of adds to the feeling and the time period of the film. And even though this film came out in 1949, it feels a lot more like a 1930s film. It really fits in with those earlier 1930s gangster films like The Public Enemy, Little Caesar and Scarface, The Shame of a Nation, which I think makes sense really because, at this time when James Cagney was going into this film, he hadn't made a film with Warner Brothers for 7 years. The last one he did was Yankee Doodle Dandy. So going into this film, he was really going back to Warner Brothers, almost revisiting and getting a feel of those older gangster movies again. In this film, James Cagney really proves that even as a slightly older man, he still has what it takes to play this real crooked, evil, villainous gangster character. So overall, as you can probably tell, I'm a big fan of this movie. I really think it is one of the best gangster movies of all time. And I would say that if you're someone who enjoys gangster movies and you like crime films, but you haven't really seen any of the really old gangster films, then this is definitely one that has to be seen. It has aged incredibly well, has superb performances, very quotable film as well, got some excellent lines in it, and it's very intense and brilliantly paced. This film never really slows down and is always a very entertaining one to watch. So overall, I'm going to give White Heat a rating of 10 out of 10. This is one of those films that is definitely worth your time, so definitely check it out if you get the chance. So there we go. So that is my review of White Heat. So what do you guys think? Have you seen White Heat? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Please let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section below. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.